thanks for coming on Big Roots Podcast.
Yeah, thanks, man. I'm excited to talk with you again.
Tell everybody, if they don't know who you are and what you do.
Sure. So I have for the last several years been teaching other contractors how to create referral relationships with insurance agents. It's something that I did really well at as a roofing contractor out in Denver, and just started having other guys ask me to show them what I was doing. I kind of fell in love with the teaching side of it. As a roofing contractor, you end up doing a lot of different things, some things that you're really good at, some things you're not so good at. And, it allowed me to operate in something that I really loved, I was really good at, and not have to do as many of the things that I wasn't as excited about.
Nice. Yeah, it's good to identify strengths and weaknesses. I was watching your video before we hit record on your website.
Mm-hmm.
If you should go to that website if you're watching this. It's a really good description of your story. So it's a 16-minute video, well worth it. Is very interesting. Your story. It's a very common story that you and I have a similar story as well too.
Sure.
Like there's, working for people, getting stiffed on commission, that kind of thing. Hanging around $1 million in sales, and then you grew to $5 million in sales. Like those are very interesting things. That when I think of you and I think of what you do, I think a lot of people that are watching and listening, they want to know how you got from 1 to 5.
Sure.
And I love the description, and we did it too in our roofing business. We would go to the insurance agent's office, drop off. We didn't do donuts. We did candy bowls. So we bought candy bowls and it had our logo on it. And Amy was our office manager, and she would go around to at the time when State Farm was actually good. We went to all of the State Farm agents and we refilled their candy bowls every 2 weeks or something like that. And to be fair, we did make a lot of sales doing that.
Yeah.
But there was nothing even years after Amy left our company, people would ask about Amy and they would we got sales years later from that sales activity. And I think it's just interesting. And there's a little bit of, like I said before we hit record, there's a little bit of a secret sauce to what you do. And it's important to know, you can't, if in any type of business, you've got to always be better than the status quo. The bar is pretty most people don't even do that part.
Right.
But understanding what the secret sauce is, can you kind of break down, that's a broad question.
Sure.
Can you kind of break down what I just said and what kind of helped you get from that 1 to 5 million?
Well, I think, I just had this conversation the other day around, I started doing a training for a client, and one of the guys was like, this feels like overkill, right? It feels like I should be, and I was like, it 100% is. And I think that so often people do the bare minimum, right? It might be the lazy, stop in at the agent's office, with, no appointment, no agenda, no plan. It might be I don't know what to say, and so I'm going to bring them candy, right? Which is not the worst thing in the world, right? And it can work, but the way that I work is really I like to over plan. I like to over prepare. I like to do more than what it's going to be necessary to not just be the same as everybody else, but more than what's necessary to be exceptional at this thing that I'm going to do. And so with the whole training, we really take time to think about what is it that these agents actually care about, right? What is it going to feel like for them when I show up late for the meeting or show up on time, right? What is it going to feel like? And I love, I've always been a big fan of the stuff you guys do with ProLine, because it's what is that customer service experience going to be like when they get that text message reminder that I'm going to be there in 15 minutes or whatever it is? There's a million different ways to tackle that. But being very intentional and putting yourself in the shoes of that agent, and it's why would they trust me? Right? Yes, maybe I'm trustworthy, but they don't know that. There's 10 different roofers that walked into their office this week that, look and sound just like me, and some of them aren't trustworthy. So how am I going to break that down? How am I going to, if I do have that integrity, how am I going to show that and put that on display for them? And, so it's things like that really put us into a different category when everybody else is just doing the wing it approach, or the shotgun approach. We can be very intentional. We can pick our targets. We can take the time to think through and plan out, and then it becomes almost inevitable that we're going to win the majority of those agents that we go after. We talked about, briefly. There's a lot of people in this industry have become very successful being hunters, right? Going out and finding that deal for the day, right? And you can make a ton of money in this industry, really not having a whole lot of forethought, really not having your stuff together. It's a bunch of, a bunch of us guys that, maybe don't have a degree or whatever. And we can make a ton of money just without preparing and just flying by the seat of our pants and going and knocking a few doors or whatever it is and making a sale, where that only scales to a point. And I think there's some really big roofing companies that survive off of just door knocking, but it's because they've got 100 guys knocking doors, and it's not really working for most of those guys. There's 10 of those 100 guys that it's working for. 90 of them are just disposable, and they're working themselves to death. They're just all sorts of pain points that would be solved if they could have a little bit more forethought and think about, instead of every day going out and getting a bucket of water from the well, from these insurance agents, like, I'm going to build a pipeline, and then I'll be able to turn on the faucet and have as much water as I need to. So I think that there's, I probably went down a rabbit trail there, but I'm a little bit passionate about this stuff.
That's great. I mean, I say this a lot. It's this weird thing, but I always say people are people. They're not changing. And at the age of AI and ProLine's automations, this sounds great. And you say this actually in your video. There's no silver bullet. There's no like magic pill for anything in any industry to solve all the problems. What I see with what you do is that the pipeline is people. And if you want to grow something, there's nothing wrong with being a hunter. You got to be a hunter. You do have to like go and get what you have to go eat what you kill. You got to go do that.
Yeah.
But doing that without the farming side, what you talked about, is very short-sighted, and you will bang your head against the wall.
Yes.
And you are exactly right. It is. We all see it in the Facebook groups. Anonymous participant. I'm going to work for this. Like, people are moving roofing companies every day, all day. And a big part of that is because there's no system in place for them to actually grow a pipeline and invest in that brand. And if you're an owner, you're like, I don't want my sales reps to keep turning over. The biggest thing is like, you don't have a pipeline for them to grow personally.
Yeah.
It's a huge deal. And as owners, you have to treat your sales reps not disposable, like you said. You have to treat them like, we were all about putting our sales reps individually on a pedestal through door hangers, yard signs. Like, we were trying to treat them like realtors that had their family pictures and all this stuff, so that they would win as individuals under the umbrella of our company. That empowered them. Now, we had a system for neighborhood domination. Shout out to Brad Akers. But we didn't do what you did in our retail market. We did start to do it before we sold our company in the Savannah market, but massively valuable because people are people. They want to be sold by people. It's not like that individual came to my house, he was really smart, and he got my roof paid for. I like that. That's not the same thing as building a relationship in your community so that you can repeat that same thing over and over and scale.
Yeah.
Less unnecessary sales activity to have a better result.
Well,
So
it's scaling on the individual level, right?
Yep.
You can scale door knocking on the corporate level, but the individual door knockers aren't necessarily scaling what they're doing too much.
Yeah. I like it. I like it. We're on the same page. Well, so what does that look like? What is the differentiator? Me taking candy. Just name a few things, maybe 1 to 3 things that would be different about like scheduling appointments, like not just showing up randomly.
Yeah.
What are some things that you recommend?
So I think the dynamic that we create is probably the most important aspect of it. They've got people showing up with candy and cookies and donuts and ball game tickets and taking them to lunch and doing all that sort of stuff. And typically they look at that contractor as um, a commodity,
Yep.
right? They look at it as, I can swap one out and the other, whoever's going to get me the better tickets to the ball game, whoever's going to get me the flavor of donuts that I like or whatever it is. And so it's kind of an unwinnable race, right? Whoever's going to come in and do a little bit better than you at that thing is maybe going to win it. And maybe they get to know you and they like you and that's neat. But also you're kind of singing for your supper, right? You're going and, hey, I'll give you this candy. And then you know that I want your referrals. And also we're going to do a good job and all, have great customer service, all that sort of stuff. But one of the major differences that we do is we talk to our customers and we find out what our customers think about their insurance agents. Do you know your agent? Do you like your agent? And when we find people that don't know their agent, we don't like their agent, we refer them to the agents that we work with. And so now we're actually coming to the table with something of value.
Yep.
Heck of a lot more. They can buy their own candy and their own donuts and their own ball game tickets, right? If I can consistently bring you business, you don't care about any of the rest of that. I've had insurance agents take me to like a Nuggets game with great seats that they got from a roofer while they were sending me all their referrals because I was bringing them value. And I, have clients with all sorts of stories like that, that they want that value. And it's a very rare thing, but it's not actually that hard to do if you're intentional about it. If you systematize it and make sure every time I'm talking to a customer, I'm asking these questions, I'm uncovering these opportunities and I'm capitalizing on them. And it's kind of a currency that you can go exchange with these agents. And so when I call an agent, I'm not saying, hey, pretty please, can I be your roofer? I'm saying, look, I've got customers that need a new insurance agent. I'm trying to find the right fit for them. I'm doing the legwork and I want to make sure that I refer them to a good agent or broker. When can I interview you? And let's sit down. Let's talk about, what you guys have going on and see if you'd be good enough for my clients. So, maybe doing it up a little bit, but that's essentially the dynamic that we're creating, which is total polar opposite from what most people are doing, coming in and tap dancing for these referrals. And when we have that dynamic, it's what I would say is it's more of a pull than a push, right?
Yeah.
They're chasing us instead of us chasing them. And, so there are specific things to the way that the word tracks that we use on the phone calls, the specific sequence of how we do all this, how we construct that meeting to maximize the kind of psychological impact of this whole thing. But ultimately, you have to have certain things in place. You have to care about the quality that you're installing. You have to have the integrity to tell a customer they don't need to file a claim when they don't have damage. You have to, and which if you are that guy, it's a really great thing that you can operate in this part of the market that the guys that aren't like that don't get to play in. That's really at the core of what we're doing, is just creating a totally different dynamic. And honestly, the one of the biggest problems that we have is just being able to throttle the amount of business that we bring in.
Yep.
So I'm sure, with your CRM, you deal with that side of things too, is the business coming in, you've got to be able to handle all of it at once and respond to all of
Yep.
it.
It's true. I like what you said about, are you willing to tell a customer, a homeowner, they don't have a valid claim? It's a huge deal. I still remember early on in my days, again, this is in Athens, Georgia, there were literally no storms, like no storm events, nothing, no wind, no hail, nothing.
Mhm.
And, these Atlanta roofers were coming in and they were doing mechanical damage and they were damaging shingles in a really, really high end neighborhood.
Yeah.
I climbed up a, 4-story house, 1212. I was on the top. I remember I went to the very top. I was like, where's the damage here? Like, there's no damage. The neighborhood was kind of 20 miles west of Athens, so kind of closer to Atlanta. So there's a possibility that there was some event that didn't show up or whatever. So
Sure.
it was building relationships. We built a relationship with this State Farm agent. Front desk person had a relationship with our office manager. They called. We went out there. And I called I was on top of that roof, 1212, I was inspecting every soft metal, everything, taking pictures. And I called the actual point of contact, the front office person, and she answered. I said, "Hey, I need to talk to the agent. There's no damage on this roof, but I need to send this to you or who." And so I sent the pictures, and I told him, I said, "Look, I'm on the roof right now. There's no damage. If there's magically damage in the next couple of weeks, you'll know. You have the evidence now." Because I could see the neighbors had just had their roof replaced, like 4 or 5 neighbors, and there's no tree coverage. There's no possibility that this was going to happen.
Sure.
That one phone call, every meeting, I didn't even go to the like regional State Farm. I didn't even do like a lunch and learn, nothing like that. That one agent told every other state. Athens pretty small. There was like 9 agents. There were State Farm agents in Athens. All of them started calling me.
Yeah.
Just because I was honest. I was like, there's no claim here.
Yeah.
And guess what? A year later, there was an actual storm. The first time in 17 years. And I basically did an entire neighborhood just from the one thing. So where do the wise guys? Just be honest. If you don't have, just be honest. Like
those
be
no
honest.
damage inspections are gold for building trust. And when you go do some of those, obviously, like when you talk to the homeowner, you go, "I make my money when I sell a roof, and you don't need one."
Mm-hmm.
They believe you. When somebody tells them to file a claim, they, "Oh, okay, right." Like I've had people, they come knock my door, which is always fun. And I let them inspect, and every single time they tell me that I need to file a claim and that I have damage.
Love that.
And, it's kind of my guilty pleasure is just letting people inspect.
That is a very funny guilty pleasure.
And, and I've got a couple of people that, have knocked my door, and then they're like, "Oh, I know you." And I'm like, "Yes. All right." But
I won't lie now. Okay. I won't tell you.
Yeah. So it's, it's always interesting. Every single one of them has told me to file a claim. Every single one. And then we did finally have a hailstorm. And then I had one guy inspect, and he had no earthly idea what he was doing. Everything he told me to file a claim on was not the damage from the peril. So it was, it's interesting, but all that to say, if you do actually know what you're looking at, you do actually know how to do a thorough inspection and put together documentation, you are a valuable professional. Matt Mulholland in BEI is doing a training. I think they just finished up like an hour ago, all about this prove it movement, which is just a fancy way of saying like proving the loss and like being an expert and, being very intentional about how you do go through a claim. That stuff means the world. And you'll make so much more money when you just call it as it is instead of trying to make a nothing roof into a something roof. But there's guys that just have never had the training, or they just don't have the ethics. And so they're, trying to be, being desperate, trying to hope that an adjuster is going to pay for something that they probably shouldn't.
Yeah. I've also been on, I've told people before, you don't have any valid damage. This is, and then they're like, "Well, guess what? I already have a claim approved." And like, they're like, "Here's a check." I'm like, "If you want me to do the roof, I'll do it. You've already got it, claim number, everything's done." But like,
sure. Yeah. I'll build those roofs all day long.
I'll build a roof. I know the industry's been changing for the past few years, and kind of segueing into what we talked about before we hit record, the retail model, how people are leaving, they're abandoning the insurance model, or they're changing it. And then we, again, like ProLine's customer base, the most successful ones have some hybrid model. It depends on, usually it's geographically,
sure.
If they're in Denver or Minneapolis or like way more insurance, right?
Yeah. You're not selling a lot of residential retail in Dallas.
No.
Yeah.
So it depends on where. There's no one right answer to this, but like, what's your take on people kind of abandoning the straight insurance model, going in? Because I know that this is super controversial. People want to know what to do. I would say my opinion is depends on where you live. That's the first thing, and then what's your thoughts on that whole thing about insurance versus retail?
Yeah. So I think it starts from a fundamental level of not understanding how insurance claims work. And insurance claims for decades since, before I got into the business, were operating dysfunctionally. They're operating wrong, not the way that insurance actually works, but contractors were telling a customer to file a claim with providing no evidence, no anything. Maybe they took some pictures on their phone or their camera back in the day, The
Mhm.
adjusters were then proving the loss for the policyholder, and they were paying it reasonably well, right? And maybe you send in a few supplements, a few missed items, whatever. But that worked for a long time.
Mhm.
And then I think contractors who, again, that's most everybody grew up in that. And that was their experience. Then when they saw all of a sudden the adjusters not proving this loss for us, those crooks, well, it was never the adjuster's job. And I laugh all the time in, social media groups and stuff. You'll get contractors that are like, the adjuster didn't do his job. And it's not his job. It's not his job to prove the loss. His job is to look at what evidence has been presented for the loss that is being claimed. And so if no evidence has been presented, they have a really low standard of what they actually have to do.
Mhm.
And so I don't know why they would pay any claim that hasn't been supported, right? Like when I got rear ended here a few weeks ago, and like if I was just like, hey, send me $15,000, my car got damaged for sure. They'd be like, can we have some pictures of your car? And I'm like, no, you can't have pictures of my car. Well, can we look at it? Maybe, like, can we have an invoice? Can you do something? Right? Like, it'd be ridiculous. Right. And so we go through, hey, like here's what happened. Here's the police report. Here's the everything, here's the invoice from the um auto mechanic. Like that's what makes sense. And so roofing was, I think, just in this weird place where the adjusters were carrying the policyholder's duty for them. And
Yeah.
then the insurance companies realized, they were like, wait a second, we don't have to do that. And most customers, they've been, these contractors have been lulled to sleep. And so when contractors realize, one, you don't need to be a public adjuster to inspect and document something, to understand what caused that damage, right? To understand what the method or scope of repairs should be. And by God, figuring out how much that should cost. I want to slap every contractor that I hear that's like, oh, I'm not going to write an estimate for a roof. That's what you do.
Yeah.
And I hear these things. And so there's all these things. It's been operating dysfunctionally when you realize, look, there's so many things I can do. I can't apply coverage, right? I can't say, you have coverage for hail damage. Therefore, the insurance company owes for this bill. You can say hail did this damage. I don't know if you have coverage, right? I don't know if you have an insurance policy, right? You can't negotiate a settlement. You can't horse trade with them. You can't figure out, hey, we're going to do this and that. Like, it's not your job. Not a public adjuster. You can't interpret the policy and say, because it says this, here's what you have to do. But you can absolutely do a lot of things. You can act as an expert. You can lay out all the facts. You can help that customer prove their loss. Hey, my car got rear-ended. Here's pictures of it. Here's the parts that got damaged, right? Like my roof got damaged by hail, and here's the photos of it, and here's how we know it's hail, and here's when it happened, and here's all the things. And you present that to the carrier, and lo and behold, they pay it. Crazy thing. And And so I think I see a lot of contractors, the guys that are going, oh, we're going retail. And they don't really mean they're going retail. They mean they're doing insurance claims, but they're just sending an invoice and they're not
Yep.
helping that customer prove their loss. So they've got this disparity between what the insurance company wants to pay because nobody's proven this loss, which might be nothing, right? Or might be very little, and what the contractor wants to charge. And they're bridging that gap instead of actually proving the loss. They're bridging that gap with financing. They're bridging that gap with customer coming out of pocket, or more often, they're bridging that gap by the customer finding somebody else in their marketplace who will actually help them prove their loss and help them get their claim paid so that they don't have to come out of pocket that difference. And so all
Yep.
these guys that are switching retail, instead of just, I don't know, doing a photo report and putting together a little summary of what's going on and writing your estimate, it's not that hard to do. They're just going, well, I'm gonna back out of this entirely. And they're leaving a huge chunk of the market to the guys who will.
Yeah. That makes sense. That makes sense. We were never, I mean, self-admittedly, we were not super expert. Probably about towards the end of our business before we sold it, we were only about 25% on one of our branches because it was on the coast, and almost like, that except for the 1 year, basically zero insurance in the Athens market.
Mhm.
What would you say? You mentioned financing because I never experienced this until a couple of years ago, 2 or 3 years ago, where we had a bunch of military guys. They live in these, track homes in this, they're all living in the same homes. They're all the vinyl siding. They have like 21 square roofs, 22 square roofs, maybe. So like in Georgia, 5 foot, it's 12 to $14,000 roofs.
Mhm.
Well, because it was coastal, they have all of the carriers are going this way, at least in the Savannah market. They would all have like between $8,000 and $10,000 deductibles. If you're a roofing contractor, does it make sense in that kind of and you're around this a lot. So I'm interested in your perspective and what you're seeing carriers doing all over the country. Because I would imagine something's happening in those major storm markets where it makes very little sense for them to fight for the 3,000. It made no sense for these guys to fight for the $3,000 with the $4,000.
Sure.
And that's what I see is the guys who are switching from insurance to retail, they're just switching to financing.
Mhm.
And they're having to learn how to sell financing, right? They have to learn how to have the right carrier. Shout out to Improvify. I used a couple different people to help me make sure I was getting a lot of approvals. But
Yeah.
what's your thought on that? Is that the kind of you're talking about that type of contractor, or are you talking about a different kind of just like screw it, I'm just
Yeah, I
trying
think that's a
retail?
little bit different. And obviously the scales kind of shift a little bit, right? When you're talking about a $12,000 roof and $8,000 deductible, it's like, or $10,000 deductible. Obviously, it doesn't make sense to mess with any of this for 2 grand, right? Like,
Yep.
but sometimes it becomes a little bit less clear, right? Where it's like, all
Yeah.
right, we've got a $6,000 deductible and a $14,000 roof, and well, maybe then it still does make sense to do this deal, and we just bridge the gap with the financing. And I'm not anti-financing by any stretch, but I think when that's essentially the customer coming out of pocket, right? And I
Yep.
think that there's it makes sense for people to have a high deductible, for people to have ACV coverage, all those things when they understand what they're getting. Insurance is just us paying monthly to let somebody else bear the burden of a big risk, right? And so you're deciding how much I'm willing to pay in exchange for how much of the risk I want them to shoulder for me. What I don't like is when the coverage is there and we don't get it because we don't know how to support it.
Yep. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Where are you seeing in the country that people do not have higher than a 1% or a $3,000, like where the ratio makes sense to fight? Because I know it's because I'm not doing what you do. I know it's because I'm not talking to these insurance restoration contractors. But my perspective over the past 24 months is that the deductibles are so high that the claim just doesn't even happen. Or another crazy thing is like somebody will just eat that crazy deductible, and because they're so hungry for work, they'll just eat some $6,000. I'm like, how
Yeah.
that happens too, which is insane. It's one thing to eat a $1 or $2,000 deductible. Like I get you could survive, but like those are the two things I see. Where in the country? Because it feels like Minneapolis, Denver, and Texas, which is where we have tons of our insurance customers. They're telling us that the deductibles are so high, it makes no sense. What do you think the ratio is? I like the idea of like $6,000 to $14,000 roof. That kind of makes sense because you're getting a big chunk of that roof paid for.
Right. Right. It's I think all the markets are a little bit different. And even within a market, right? Like there's Dallas is a great example of like you've got 3% deductibles. You've got these monster crazy high
Yep.
deductibles where these insurance claims are all of a sudden not making any sense to file the claim.
Yep.
And essentially they have a fire policy, right? They don't have wind and hail policy anymore. And so in that scenario, yeah, absolutely, don't file a claim when it's not going to make sense based on what your deductible is and what your coverage is. But even in every market, there are carriers that are doing different types of deductibles, right? Like and that's, part of what I love about like referral relationships is like when you're knocking doors or doing even online leads or whatever it is, it's Russian roulette. I don't know if I'm getting Allstate this time or Amica. right? Like
Yep.
it's going to be a mixed bag. It's just it is what it is. And so you frequently run into these garbage policies that are an RPS schedule or they're, whatever. Whereas if you are cultivating, you know what, I don't want to work with the riffraff. I only want to work with the better carriers. And it doesn't have to be high net worth, right? It can be good carriers that write good policies and pay claims and, and educate their customers on what they're buying, right? Like I've had
Yep.
a ton of customers that, hey, you've got a $20,000 deductible. And they're like, all right, cool. Do I just write you a check or what? Right? Like
Yep.
that's fine, for your $60,000. But the people that, have even if they have $1,000 deductible and they didn't think they were going to pay anything, that it creates friction. So I think every market, you mentioned something, you were like, well, in a retail market, I think every market's an insurance market in some capacity, right? Obviously, you guys aren't getting hailstorms and windstorms like some other parts of the country, but there's trees falling on stuff. There's all sorts of stuff that happens. So there is insurance work that happens in every single market. And I think even if you are 99% retail, you need to be equipped to go, okay, this is an insurance claim. We're going to need to document what happened here so that the insurance company will pay for it.
Makes sense.
Otherwise, you're just doing a disservice to that customer.
Yep. And you're also building relationships in your community too. I was an insurance agent as well. So the loss ratio for us for property was a thing. So I kind of use that leverage of like, hey, I'll be the roofer that doesn't unnecessarily damage your loss ratio.
Yeah.
And it was like, what? You know what that is? So yeah, I know that you don't want to have claims. And just the fact that we would tell people like, hey, if you call, they give you a claim number, you have a claim. People just didn't even know that.
Yeah.
Most roofers don't even know that. Like, hey guys, if you get the homeowner to call and they issue a claim number, that is a claim on their clue report. And they're like, what? Like, yeah, that's not good for them. And our system would automatically, we could see it. Agents can see it. Claim number, $0. Claim number, $0. Guess what happens? You just got your homeowner canceled.
Yep.
And they're like, what? Yeah, you're not treating your customer well because you're getting them to file unnecessary claims. That's a huge thing that people
if I filed a
care.
claim every time one of these guys knocked on my door and told me to file a claim, they would have all gotten denied.
And you've been
Would get
canceled.
dropped. And then I'd have to go somewhere else that's going to make me pay more. Right. Like,
let me just say, they put you in a high risk platform.
right. Yeah.
Guarantee.
Even if you've never had a claim paid,
yep.
you're a high risk because you file a lot of claims.
Yeah. Don't screw your neighbors, guys. Like, don't go out there and literally, it could be quadruple the annual premium just because you got out there. And we saw it 2014, 15, 16, $0. They got $0 and they got canceled. The system just picks it up. You are fishing for money. We know that there's no claim. There's no storm events. Guess what? You're getting a letter in the mail. And they're going to be mad at you. If you care about your business and your brand and your community, they're going to be mad at you a lot, very mad at you because they're going to blame you immediately.
Yeah.
Once that happens, just do the right thing. I don't know. It's
not that hard.
So,
yeah.
It is hard for some people. It is. You want to make the commission. I get it. You want to make the commission. We want to sell the roofs. We want to build the roofs. We want to get the 5-star review. But just do the right thing. There'll be more roofs. There'll be other storms. It's just a difference. This is making me think about the way that as insurance changes in your business, let's paint a scenario. Let's paint a picture. What if everyone goes to like 3% everywhere and they're like, we can't do it? Like, it's good to build the relationships. What is the future? How do you see the future of your business helping contractors build relationships with insurance agents? Do you see it changing a lot or do you see it kind of staying steady? There's always going to be good times and bad times.
I think that you're going to see more and more big deductibles, right? I don't think that's a real controversial opinion. Across the country, we're probably going to see more and more policies that are written with a big deductible. But there's still a lot of them that don't. And what's more is, I really thought that we were going to see some receding of the number of referrals that insurance agents have. And in fact, with all these carriers that are now either dropping customers or converting them to ACV after 10, 12, 15 years, that they are the ones, they don't want to lose that customer.
Yeah.
Right. And they know they're, hey, we're going to get dropped. I'm going to lose that customer. That's $600 I make every year.
Yep.
Right. Or, they're going to get converted to ACV and then like, that's not going to be great. Let me get somebody that I can trust to go out and look at it. If they have damage, let's file a claim now. If they don't have damage, let's set them up for financing to go buy a roof. And then now they've got a brand new roof. They can get that RCV coverage. They've got another 10, 15 years before that's happening again, and they can stay that insurance agent's customer.
Yep.
And so it's so valuable to them, even if it's a retail referral that they're sending you, whether it's that it's aging to trigger that, or just that it's somebody that needs a roof. There's people all the time that, hey, we're building an addition on our house, and I need a roofer to build the roof part of it. I know you deal with roofers all the time. Can you refer me somebody? Sure. Right. Like there's so much retail business gets referred by those insurance agents because people know that their insurance agents deal with roofers more than just about anybody.
Yeah.
And so I think that, again, it's a margin of the business that is having those increasing deductibles where the scales shift, where the insurance claim doesn't make sense anymore. But it's also, if you're working with good carriers that write good policies, that's going to be less of what you deal with. And again, being able to do those retail deals for somebody, even if it comes from an insurance agent, is awesome.
Yep. It's that push-pull thing you're talking about. Like you are providing real value in those situations. Like and then they refer you. That makes total sense. Again, it's relationships.
Yeah.
People want to work with good people. If you're really providing that kind of value and you're being intentional in the way that you're doing it, not just like, hey, he's a good guy. Like, this makes total sense.
Yeah. Well, and as an insurance agent, probably the thing you probably paid more attention to than your loss ratio was your turnover, right? Your attrition. And so you're going to have some, right? You're going to have customers that pass away or move out of state or go with another carrier. The more you can stop customers from leaving because whatever issue, that makes a huge difference in you being able to actually build a bigger and bigger book of business instead of it just spinning your wheels, losing as many customers as you're gaining each year.
Yeah, it's a huge deal. Like from the insurance agent side, like you need to know that as a roofer, like it's really hard to continue to grow without losing if you don't service those customers well. And I can tell you, like when we had resources, which were generally people who helped service our customers, we won. Everybody won. They got the business. We kept the book of business growing. We didn't lose them. And from the insurance agent side, because you look good, because you referred the right person, guess what? They like add a car, like get life insurance. Like then it really, really works.
Yeah.
So like the roofer is providing massive value to the insurance agent because it's one more sales touch point for the insurance agent to look good and to actually provide real value to that homeowner. It would always happen. It would be like, oh, I got you on the phone. We actually got a boat now, like, or whatever it was. Like, it would be something that you didn't have to do the sales activity. You had people out there like roofing contractors that were helping bring new business to you to grow that book of business. It really works from the insurance agent side.
Oh, yeah. Well, and especially if you are still door knocking at all, if you're knocking the neighbors of that customer that just got referred to you, ask them the 2 questions. Who's your agent? What do you think of them? Find people that aren't happy with their agent currently and send them to that agent that just referred you business. And so when they see, hey, every time I refer this guy, he brings me half the neighborhood to come get a policy. Do you think that they're going to entertain another roofing contractor when you bring that type of value?
Yeah. The first time you do that and it actually works, you will be shocked. When people would do that for us, again, before I was a roofing contractor, I was like, oh, they're getting all the business. They're doing it. They're getting it all.
Yeah.
Like that.
Well, it's easy to sell insurance as a roofer, just like it's easy to sell roofs as an insurance agent.
Yep. It's just having somebody advocate for your business, and it has nothing to do with you. I mean, you may be indirectly benefiting from it, but like you're vouching for somebody. It's again, people like to work with good people. I think we fixed it all, Matt. We fixed it all. We finished it all.
Solved. The entire roofing industry is solved right now.
I love it. Anything you want to add before we go?
Oh, man.
How do they get a hold of you? How do people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
Sure. So restorationreferralsystem.com is our website. You can check us out there. You can connect with me on social media. If you're watching this and you're like, I hate that Matt Danskin guy, we're already Facebook friends. I'm at my 5,000 cap, so please leave. I need some room for some good people. Yeah, man, I'm pretty easy to get a hold of through either of those ways. And my email.
I love it. I love it, man. I really did enjoy watching the video on your website. I think a lot of roofing contractors are going to identify with that because I did, it's very similar story to me. Again, you know what you're doing. You know how to connect people in the right ways. If you're struggling in this space, whether you bring the candy in the candy bowl or you don't do anything, this is a good way. Again, this is good sales activity. This is worth doing. Again, Amy did it the way you always make fun of it, and it still worked.
Sure.
So working with what you guys do is different, and it will make an impact. So everybody, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Matt, thanks for coming on. You guys have a great day.
Thanks.